We'll be talking about skills in here today. And actually we've already touched on some of what I was going to talk about in the introduction in the research culture session that we had earlier on today. The panel there did a lot of talking about encouraging the younger generation into manufacturing, into steelmaking, and what we need to do to encourage more people. And I just took a few screen grabs of headlines there have been about the skills gap and where we're going to need to find more people to work in engineering in the future. And as Jen touched on earlier, what's happening with the leaky pipeline, why are people leaving engineering jobs? And one of the figures that I didn't realise before I was doing some research for this was that I think it's about 20% of the current engineering workforce are set to retire in the next 5 years. And that is a lot of experience, knowledge and skills that will be retiring very shortly, and we just don't have enough young people training to be engineers or the people staying in engineering in things like the steel industry as we move into the kind of sustainable and green future. And it's not just engineering skills, we're also short on digital, creative skills, construction, teaching, and green skills as well, which is an interesting subject which I think Dean might touch on later on a little bit. What is a green skill compared to any other skill? And so it's really interesting that despite there being more work going on to talk about engineering, we are still lacking people we're going to need for a more sustainable future. And I think Jen touched on earlier, we're going to need more people to talk about the amazing things they're doing in science and engineering to encourage more young people in there. During Mark's presentation, he was showing some of those fantastic transmission electron microscope images, and we forget sat in those rooms that we're looking at things at the billionth the size of a metre. And it's these sort of things that we need to be talking about more to encourage more young people to consider working in the steel industry, to consider a future in science and engineering. And a point I picked out here, there's an increasing trend in green engineering jobs, and that trend's likely to continue. Postings with green engineering or green skills in has increased by about 50% in the last 5 years. So it's really important we're looking at the skills that we need for the industry going forward, whether they're green skills or just general steel making skills that we're going to need. I do a lot of work with young people, so a lot of what Jen talked about earlier is something that I'm really passionate about in material science and engineering. And there was a BBC article a few years saying that career ambitions of young people are already limited by the age of 7. So people aren't even getting to secondary school before they're deciding whether they want to do something, whether they like something or not. And there are several fantastic programs, STEM Ambassadors, Expert Ed, to name a couple, that are going on across the STEM disciplines to work with people who to expose them to science and engineering. And within Sustain, we've been working with the Engineering Development Trust, who are specifically focused on encouraging more young people to take an interest in manufacturing and engineering. And along with the Transforming Foundation Industries Network Plus, over the last couple of years, we've funded nearly 400 students to take part in South Wales manufacturing events, where we've had local industry partners like Tata Steel, like the Varley Nickel Refinery, come and work with young people to show them what engineering and manufacturing is about in South Wales. And I know that people like Liberty Steel, GFG, work with the Engineering Development Trust in England as well. Another group I want to touch on quickly is Discover Materials. So Jen talked about 50% for the future for mechanical engineering. What we have in material science and engineering is Discover Materials, and this is a group of 10 universities from across the UK that all offer material science and engineering undergraduate degrees, and it's a great platform that we use to go out into schools, to run teacher CPD, to go to big festivals like the Big Bang Fair, Cheltenham Science Festival, to really introduce people to what material science and engineering is. And from my perspective, that's a lot about the steel industry. So from my perspective of skills, it's a lot about getting young people to know what the steel industry is, what material science and engineering is, and how they can be involved. And our panel today are going to talk a little bit more about the skills specifically needed in the steel industry, some training involved in the steel industry, and what we're doing inside the university and outside to train people in the steel industry and also retain them in the steel industry long term. I just wanted to give a quick example of an activity we've developed. So this is an activity that was developed with some funding from the Royal Academy of Engineering to do with UN Sustainable Development Goals, looking at how to introduce young people to the concept of circular economy. So we took a Lego car, got them to pull it to pieces, categorise the parts into what actual material they could be made from, and then got them to use their imagination to create something completely new using the same parts. So just an example of the kind of things we're trying to do to encourage young people to get into science and engineering. So without further ado, we're going to move on to the main talks of the session today. So first we're going to hear from Dr. Dean Stroud from Cardiff University.
So, you can hear me okay? Yeah. Good. Yes, I'm Dean Stroud. I'm a sociologist here in a room of engineers, I think. What I'll be talking about is a project I was involved in between 2019 and 2023, the European Steel Skills Alliance, which was about mapping out the future skill needs across Europe. What I'll be covering is where skill needs tend to emerge out of technological change, so I'll say something about technological change, particularly with regard to Industry 4.0, that is the introduction of digitalization within manufacturing contexts. So what is emerging in that regard, and what are the skill needs that are emerging. I'd also give a shout out to another couple of projects at the end, because if you've ever been involved in a European project, you have to make sure that you disseminate them as regularly as you can. So this is the mission of the ESSA project, as it says on the slide: steel industry driven proactive adjustment of the future skill demands developed by the industry and for the industry. And with it being developed by the industry, that does mean that industry stakeholders were directly involved in this. Major steel companies, steel associations and such like, they were articulating their needs, and we were looking to develop out of that an understanding of skill needs and demands, technological change and solutions, working out how we could begin to develop those training programs, how we could begin to develop to upskill steel workers to address those upcoming demands. And these demands are forecast from 2023 through till 2028. But it carries on through the European Steel Technology Platform, which I sit on skills at least, with the what's it called? The focus group people, where we will meet regularly and meet with industry to talk about the needs that are developing beyond 2028 and how they might be met. A large body of research was carried out as part of this ESSA project, which I was involved in. I was involved in mainly around how the sorts of needs that are being identified will be transferred into vocational education and training systems, and looking at how different VET systems operate across Europe and could accommodate those needs. Other research looked directly at the skill needs, and other research looked at the technological developments happening that are bring about those needs. And so a body of research was undertaken involving desk research, surveys and interviews. And it was mainly during COVID, so those interviews were held mainly online. These are the range of partners that were involved in the ESSA project. So you can see the steel companies involved, the steel associations and the social partners, a wide range of associated partners as well, including Swansea University through Sustain. So yes, a very large project with key stakeholders from the steel industry involved. With some of these partners, I should say, filling dual roles. So we were there as a teaching and education organisation, or education and training organisation, but also as a research institution. And you can see the coverage here in terms of the countries that were covered and involved in the project either directly as a partner or as a associate partner, and the sort of processes that we were interested in covering with regard to skill needs. So that is primary steel making, secondary steel making, and the processing of steel. So this is about the technologies that when surveying steel companies. These are what they came back with in terms of the sorts of technologies that they are using. So technologies around cybersecurity, predictive maintenance, and so on. You can read the list. And what we divided that up to in terms of categories was those technologies that are not used but will be introduced. So that's the dark purple. Those not used and will not be introduced, the light purple. Those used and will be expanded, and those used and will not be expanded. But you can see here, I think, there's an indication of the direction of things. Cybersecurity is used to a large degree and will continue to expand, as will predictive maintenance and advanced process monitoring and control and tracking and tracing. We can see that at the other end of the scale, whilst digital platforms for circular economy are largely not used, not planned to be introduced at the moment, there is also scope there for them to be used and will be introduced. So I'll leave that with you just for a second, but you can see there's a wide range of technologies that are anticipated to be used and introduced within the sector over the period that I said, over the next over 5 years from 2023. We asked steel companies about the expected benefits of new technologies. And you can see that most anticipated that the benefits deriving from these technologies would be towards production costs reduction. Most anticipated that. That obviously links to increased competitiveness. Workplace safety was important too, coming out of the benefits of the new technologies that were identified. But you can see a whole range of benefits that are anticipated from the introduction of new technologies, Industry 4.0 technologies. The most digitized areas, so we asked companies to give their top 3 choices. Most came out with digitalization expected to be introduced within production areas. And then it's administration, quality control. You can see there where they're anticipated to be introduced to different degrees, with knowledge management perhaps less of a focus, where there's still a high reliance on person-to-person interactions. With this slide, there's 2 aspects to it. So what we attempted to do to understand skill needs, because if you travel across, if you speak to people across Europe about the profile of their workforce, you get a lot of different kinds of occupations that are talked about, which are really a reflection of the vocational education and training system as well. So we were tasked as a consortium of trying to work out what the most common occupations or job profiles are across the industry. So what you see here on the right hand side here is these top 9. So these bottom 2, training and staff development professionals and vocational and education teachers, they were added in because we needed to work out some processes for training the trainers. But using ESCO, that is the European Skills, Competencies, Qualifications and Occupations measure, we came up with these 9 job profiles, from metallurgical manager through to metalworking machine tool setter and operator, as those job profiles where we would attempt to identify the skill needs. The skill needs that we came up with were talked about in terms of T-shaped skills, so that's transversal skills. And these are not specific to particular occupations, but span occupations or span job profiles. And there we talk about digital skills, green skills, social skills, methodological skills, and individual personal skills. So soft skills to a large degree. And then there's the technical skills. And this is represented by the T, with the transversal skills going across and spanning, and the technical skills being specific skills that are particular to particular job profiles and the sorts of skills that are required in those profiles. And that informs our analysis in terms of beginning to identify where there will be an increasing demand for skills. Am I right for time?
Got about just under 10 minutes.
Oh, great. Sorry, I've got plenty more. So you can see here that what is anticipated to grow, mostly in terms of technical skills, and those are listed across the bottom there of this axis, is the inspecting and monitoring skills. Less in demand is going to be gross motor skills and strength. So that probably is a reflection of the kind of move towards digital skills and the changes in process that will rely less on motor skills and strength. But you can see there's an anticipated growth in all the sorts of skills that we identified with regard to technical skills. Now, with this, we've got a spiderweb diagram. Now, just to explain this, we've got the measure from the centre there through from 0 to 4, 5-point measure of from novice to master in terms of the level of skill required, and then on the points outside, the different profiles or job profiles that I mentioned just a short while ago. And now the blue speaks to the current relevance of the skills with regard to each job profile, and then behind that is the future relevance. So we can see with regard to technical skills, there's a strong future relevance for technical skills towards metallurgical manager skills and process engineering skills, whereas with the others, the growth is a lot less. And I've got another couple of areas for you, the first one would be digital skills, and reflecting the earlier figure I showed you, cybersecurity comes up here really strong in terms of the anticipated skill needs that are going to be required in the future. But I think that 45, 41, 49, 43% growth, there's strong growth, a strong future relevance to each of these skills in terms of basic digital skills across to advanced IT skills and programming. And then we've got the same kind of figures I showed you for technical skills. And you can see here with digital skills, the anticipated growth is again towards metallurgical manager, process engineer, and maintenance and repair engineer, although it's quite low on the scale from 0 to 4. But for factory hand, the anticipated digital skills are actually quite low. Although I must mention that I've got a paper out with some colleagues that was published last year, where we talk about factory hands and more routine work. It will be in our analysis that even with routine work, there will be a demand for digital skills, because it's often routine work that seem to be replaced by things like AI and digitalization, but we don't think it will be to the extent that is often anticipated. So then we can go to green skills, and we can see here a general growth across all areas of the green skill categories that we've identified, from environmental awareness, all across along the bottom there, energy efficiency, water conservation, waste reduction and waste management, and resource reuse and recycling. And that there's a general growth in terms of future relevance for all of these skills. Although, again, I've got another paper out recently this year actually on green skills, where we can test the whole idea of what green skills might mean. And again, I think we can see a bit of a pattern here. There's the current relevance to the future relevance is quite strong in terms of green skills. Across the board, again, less so for factory hand, more so for our metallurgical manager, process engineer, and maintenance and repair engineers. It's probably becoming more central as digitalization and decarbonisation takes hold. How do we begin to close those skills gaps? Well, we asked firms what their plans were, and I think we can see it's from the first four, starting from the right, from recruitment of young professionals through to on-the-job training. Firms seem to be wanting to take hold of this themselves and either train on the job or recruit in the expertise, rather than just drawing on contractors, which is that far column on the left. That seems to be less of a focus for the firms that we spoke to. and surveyed than it is for recruiting and training and recruiting directly. What we see here, when we asked firms about the top 3 required skills per job profile, we broke this up in in one way. So the top row here is probably our more qualified workers. So from our metallurgical, those higher up the occupational hierarchy, who seem to be, in terms of the skills that are going to be required, are more in terms of the transversal skills that we identified. So it's going to be those personal skills, social skills, and methodological skills and green skills that are going to be more in demand than the technical skills, which seem to be more important for those more operator and hands-on kinds of job profiles, where the focus is more on technical skills, as might be expected actually. We asked them also to identify what new job profiles might be emerging. So you can see we divided it up into 4 areas: data-related profiles, green profiles, technology and production process profiles, and IT and cyber-security profiles. And I don't know if there's anyone in the room who directly works for a steel company, and some of these occupations, I mean, environmental engineer, in the research that I've been doing over the past 20 years, there are already environmental engineers in the steel industry, but these were the labels that firms came up with in terms of the new job profiles they think will be taking hold over the between 23 and 2028. Okay, that was a quick and that just brings me to my last slide actually. So these other 2 projects I think are worth mentioning, not only for my own instrumental needs, but I'm currently involved in a project called Alchemia. Now this is about using artificial intelligence for optimizing electric arc furnace scrap mixes. And of course, with technology and with the introduction of AI or any other kind of technology, as soon as you introduce that, then there are implications for the workforce. So my role in that with my colleagues is to begin to anticipate those skill needs, but also look at what the changes might be for the workforce in terms of the way it's organised and the jobs that they, what the implications might be for their jobs. I was also involved between 2016 and 2020 in a research fund for coal and steel project called Drummer's Plan, which was about the use of drones. And we looked at drones for identifying leaks, and that was primarily within pipes, roofs and chimneys with regard to developing new sensors. And what does it mean when you introduce new sensor technology, introduce drones as new technologies within a steel industry workplace? And we began to identify and see a couple of things coming out of this, which perhaps reflect back on some of the things I've been talking about. So areas for upskilling will be with regard to data analysis skills, so a lot more data being produced that needs to be processed processed. And sensor maintenance skills. More of those will be required as well to help maintain the drones and how the artificial intelligence works. And also, as been mentioned a couple of times, cyber security skills. Areas of de-skilling we found quite interesting in terms of the loss of tacit knowledge. So this, particularly we found this with drones, so normally workers would be going out themselves and identifying through sound and touch and such like leaks in pipes, roofs and chimneys. That would be lost because of the way that drones would be used and the sensor technology would be used. But it speaks to a broader way, or a broader finding, I think, about the way tacit knowledge and experiential knowledge might be lost from the industry through the introduction of new technologies. And with regard to artificial intelligence, there are concerns around, so this speaks more to the Alchemia project, with AI doing the thinking for workers, that critical thinking skills will be lost, and the ability, the autonomy in the job, the ability to make decisions. That's important because it makes the job less interesting. And if the job's less interesting, that's not good for workers. So I think I'm on time, yeah? Excellent. So that's me done. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dean. We'll do all the questions together in the Q&A, if that's okay as a panel. So next up, I'd like to introduce Lisa Francis from Community Union. Just left and right, slide.
Hiya, I'm Lisa Francis. I'm a learning organiser and project manager for Community Union. So Community Union is just a general trade union that represents all sectors in the UK, from footwear to third sector to education. And it was formed from ISTC, which is the Iron and Steel Trade Confederation. And steel is very much still at the heart of what the union does, particularly in our Wales region. We are by far the largest union for steel, and we've got members in Tata Steel, Celsa, Liberty, British Steel, as well as the contractor and agency staff that work on these sites. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the union actively increases the skills of our members and the workplaces in which they're in. So the Wales Union Learning Fund, WULF, is the project that I manage. It is Welsh Government funding that unions can bid into, and it gives them access to funding that they can use to reskill and upskill their members in their workplaces. There are currently 18 projects, so many unions are taking the opportunity to engage with this funding. And the current project started in April 2022 and they will finish in March 2025. It launched in 1999, and since then it has directly funded 260,000 learners. The current project so far have supported 35,000 learners, with 1,500 of those gaining essential skills, and it is engaged with over 1,200 workplaces. WULF is a very unique pot of funding compared to other pots of government funding. It is very, very flexible, and it is completely shaped by the needs and wants of our members. It supports a wide range of training, from basic and literacy skills to advanced and professional qualifications. And during redundancy situations, we can look at those sort of employability skills that is needed as well. It aims to make learning accessible to all and actively seeks to engage with the hard-to-reach workers, particularly those who face barriers such as low income, disability, or lack of formal education. By investing in skills and professional development, WULF contributes to better job security, career progression, and higher job satisfaction. It also contributes to an increased understanding and awareness of sensitive topics such as menopause, mental health, and domestic violence, with a strong focus on well-being programs. At the core of WULF is social partnership, the cooperative relationship between Welsh Government, the trade union and employers, all working together with a shared goal and in shaping policies and practices that benefit not only the workplace but broader society. We also signpost to other pots of funding available through government, such as the Personal Learning Account and the React Plus programme. All WULF projects are different, and it really does depend on the sector and workplace and members in terms of what training is set up. But this is what my current 3-year project looks like. So as you can see from year 1, which is in orange, mental health first aid was a very popular course for us that year. We trained over 200 people in that qualification. Neurodiversity was also a popular one, and we run sessions in understanding neurodiversity, autism and dyslexia. IOSH is also a very popular one, and we also had a peak in e-learning, and I think this was because it was on the back of the sort of COVID restrictions, and people were still wary of sort of classroom face-to-face training, so we had a lot of people utilising our e-learning platform. Where it says other, this sort of refers to courses like awareness courses, like mental health awareness, disability awareness, or it could be individual applications for accredited training that don't come under one of the categories that I've put there. For example, we had a few people come for security licenses. Year 2, which is blue, you can see a massive peak in menopause training, which, to be honest, really surprised me, as when you think of a steelworks, you typically think of it being male-dominated. But what happened was a lot of males wanted to attend this training so that they could learn to be able to support not only their colleagues, their wives, it could be their mothers as well. And at Tata, there was a group of women that really pushed the gender on site, and they created like support groups so that they could sort of support each other through the difficulties that menopause can bring up for people in the workplace. And this really increased the participation in my menopause training. We still had popular demand for IOSH and NEBOSH. Neurodiversity was still popular but started dropping down. We had a bit of a peak in environmental training, so we started running more regular environmental awareness training, and we had people sign up to the NEBOSH environmental as well. Year 3, this only started in April, so it's not a true reflection of what the rest of the year is going to look like. But at this stage of the project, we've had a higher demand than any previous years, and I believe that that is due to the announcement of mass redundancies in Tata. As you can see, it sort of shifted away from those awareness sessions in menopause, neurodiversity and digital skills, and has moved very much to those more accredited training in IOSH and other health and safety, like first aid, risk assessment, working at height sort of qualifications. Due to the announcements at Tata and the limited pot of wolf, Welsh Government decided that they would enable the personal learning account funding cap to be removed for all Tata employees and the supply chain. So this meant that there was all of a sudden hundreds of free training available that was credited and recognised. So when I put the PLA funding choices by my project, you can see that there's a huge demand for those accredited training. So again, IOSH is popular, NEBOSH isn't popular. We had a bit more demand for the safety card, so the CSCS, the CCNSG, and a huge demand for the plant and machine operating licenses. So the forklift, the HGV, the Bobcat, all those sort of licenses. And we also had a peak in trade qualifications, so that is plumbing, electrical, plastering, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the sort of typical barriers that we see in the workplace. So the first one being confidence. So people could be less likely to come forward for training if they don't feel confident in their ability to do the course. If they don't feel comfortable to complete certain qualifications, or if they feel anxious about the sort of setting. It could be that they had a negative experience at school and they haven't been to any formal training since then. Or it could be that they've only got low-level formal training, so that they don't feel that they have the ability to be able to do qualifications. Many courses are now offered via e-learning, which is great and is very flexible, helps people access training around their sort of work commitments and other sort of personal commitments. It is generally easier to access and cheaper. However, if someone lacks the skills to be able to access the emails, to click on the link to fill in the registration, if they don't know how to set up the camera or the correct settings that they need to enable them the access to the training, then they're not going to be doing the courses via e-learning. And also they may not even have the equipment to enable them to do it in the first place. They might not have a laptop or a tablet to be able to do it. Working patterns is a very common barrier for us. So shift workers wouldn't be able to commit to a course if it was the same day and time on a weekly basis. Employers generally find it easier to release day staff or those that are in particular jobs or areas. So that means that those harder to reach workers are harder to get release for as well. Finances, obviously with the cost of living and the cost of courses continuing to go up, it may be that people aren't prioritising money for training and development. It might not be on their priorities. And they may not fit into certain eligibility regarding the sort of training opportunities, or they may not even be aware of any sort of funding streams that they can access. So I'm just going to talk through how we sort of help to overcome some of these barriers. So we have what is called union learning reps. These are ULRs. It's a elected volunteer that is in the workplace whose job or role it is to sort of promote training opportunities to our members and to their colleagues. So they're the eyes and ears on the floor that can come back with us and tell us, what it is that the workplace and members want. And also they're that person on site that if someone had any concerns about sort of their ability to train, if they were lacking those sort of confidence, if they had any concerns, that they could speak directly to this ULR and they'll be able to sort of support and guide them to encourage them to get on that sort of training. We offer accredited and non-accredited training. So non-accredited and awareness sessions can really help with those that have the sort of low-level qualifications or have been out of education for some time. They can act as those sort of stepping stones to progressive learning and help create more positive experiences of training, as well as increase some awareness of serious issues. Lending of computer equipment, so like I said, it could be that people don't actually have the equipment, and if they said to me that they wanted to perform or participate in a certain course and they didn't have the equipment, then we would be able to lend them a tablet or a laptop, so that gives them that access to that. We can also set up on-site learning rooms. So we speak with employers and see if they can allocate some space that we can dedicate to learning. And then this sort of breaks that sort of barrier down in terms of time restrictions or travel, because people can just access the training on site either before work, after work, or during the working day if we can get their sort of release sorted. The next one, negotiate release. Obviously we speak to employers and we emphasise to them the importance of allowing people access to training and how that's only going to increase sort of morale and skills within the workplace. So where we can, we do ask employers to allow people that time to attend our training. We offer sponsorships, so there is a bit of funding through my project that we can use towards the training, and we also get really hefty discounts with the providers that we use. So we try and make courses or training as affordable as possible to our members. We also do engagement days. So engagement days and events, they can be sort of tailored to whatever it is that we want to encourage on site. So we've done things like the menopause awareness days, we've done mental health awareness days, we've done job fairs when they've been needed, and we've done just general learning sort of engagement days where we've taken training providers on site and we've given the workers that opportunity to speak directly to them and find out what it is that is on offer and what sort of funding is available too. So just going to talk a little bit about an example of one of the sort of training programs that we implemented. So in 2018, one of our reps who organises health and safety courses at Tata Steel got in touch with me and informed me that our reps wanted to learn more about mental health. And he asked me if I had any courses that I recommended. Now, I'd participated in a mental health first aid course, and I really saw the benefit of that course with some of the content looking at the signs and symptoms of mental health issues, but also how to sort of communicate and help someone who is in distress. So we set up our first course. We had 10 people attend, and they really engaged with it, and the feedback was great. And what we found from that then, more and more people started coming forward. So I'd set up more and more courses to keep up with the demand. And I quickly saw that this was something that was really important, not only to our members, but the general workplace. I set up some awareness days where we got the mental health charities on site, and we delivered some workshops and really got people talking about mental health and trying to help to tackle that sort of stigma attached to it. We spoke to Tata about updating their mental health and wellbeing policy so that our members could be more protected in the workplace. And they agreed, so we managed to get that implemented. And then we also spoke to them about offering training for line managers, because we felt that line managers needed to know how to support their employees as well. And they agreed to that, so that training run alongside the mental health first aid and the policy. So we felt like we were really sort of getting somewhere with the bigger picture of what was needed on site. We arranged sort of walk and talks events, so people could talk to people if they wanted to in a more sort of relaxed environment outside of the workplace. We helped to set up some wellbeing rooms on site as well, so that there was some allocated space. So if someone needed to take 5 minutes out and just really needed to be on their own and needed that space, that is available in certain areas on site. Some of our reps designed some badges saying I'm a mental health first aider, which people could put on their helmets or on the uniform, so people knew who to turn to if they wanted to talk. And basically, over the last 6 years, that network has just increased, and we have trained over 600 people to be a mental health first aider now. And that network got so big that it started in Port Talbot, and then we moved to the other sort of sites, Lamwerne, Trosha and Shotton, and then Tata implemented it in England as well. So it's now like a national programme rather than Wales. And what we also did is try and create a mental health sort of network forum where we could get the first aiders together so that they could support each other in that role as well. Because obviously on times that could be quite a difficult one, supporting people through mental health. So we thought it was important that they had the support to be able to do that as well. And because of all this work that we've done surrounding mental health and the mental health first aid, we recently won Tata Steel Innovation Award, which was amazing. That Tata themselves recognised the work that the unions and the reps had done in achieving this mental health programme. So I'm just giving you that idea that starting with some training in the workplace can really have a bigger impact on attitudes and cultures in the workplace. So that is it from me, and I hope that you enjoyed learning about what the union does to increase skills.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And now we've got a double act. We've got Dr. Di Warren and Dr. Khalil Khan to talk about the skills escalator.
Getting lost on computers. So in today's fast-changing landscape, particularly with industry and the steel industry, skills are imperative. Skill development is imperative. Imagine a world where we have zero-emission steelmaking, we have AI-derived efficiency, and we lead in innovation and sustainability. In the heart and core of this are skills, and these skills are vital. So next few points we'll go through why skills are important, and first and foremost is global competition. Not just in the steel sector, but other sectors as well. There's global competition from other industries and businesses to improve our performance. Skills are at the heart of this. Workforce with the relevant skills can adapt and engage with technologies and methods so that we can remain competitive on the global scale. Innovation and advancements. So with strides in artificial intelligence, with Internet of Things, automation, etc., These advanced systems require skilled workforce to maintain and operate these advanced systems. With regards to environment and sustainability, as we lean more towards eco-friendly processes and production, industries like steel, like manufacturing, like cement, etc., at the heart of it is environmental aspects. So therefore, skilled workforce who are informed and knowledgeable about the relevant regulations, up-to-date information regarding their processes will be beneficial to ensure that they meet environmental requirements. With respect to safety and compliance, each industry, including steel, will have their complex processes where health and safety are at the core heart of this. So again, an informed workforce will adhere to these safety protocols, follow these procedures, and meet safety regulations as per requirement. A couple of more points. Workforce adaptability. As the industry changes, adapts new technologies and so on, the informed workforce will be able to quickly develop their skills and knowledge in adapting these new technologies, implementing these new technologies, so the workforce will be a little more resilient. Economic impact. Steel industry, as we know in the UK, particularly in our region in Port Talbot, is key for its local, regional economic status. But a skilled workforce is also the underlying root or cause for why the steel industry in this area is so important and contributing economically. So a skilled workforce will result in more efficiency, more production, more services contributing towards the region and economic growth. Innovation and research, again, a skilled workforce will be more proactive in adapting new technologies, in pursuing more research, and this leads on to more products, more services, and enhanced overall business performance. Furthermore, skills are important for career development. When there's a clear path for skill development, individuals, workforce can follow this career path and embark on lifelong learning so that they can benefit, and this is rewarding for them as job satisfaction, job retention, and for their career growth. Finally, why skills are important are for collaboration and knowledge share. Not just within the industry, a skilled workforce will be able to exchange knowledge and transfer ideas with their partners. So an informed workforce will be contributing to resolving common issues more efficiently. So that brings me on quickly to, there's two projects, but I'll focus on Switch on Skills, and there's a Net Zero Whale Skills project run through the Faculty of Science and Engineering. So Switch on Skills is funded through Neath Port Talbot's local authority and UK government's Shared Prosperity Fund. The prime focus of the Switch on Skills is to provide access to education and training. The strategic importance of education and the specialized training, not just in the steel sector, but other businesses, other industries like healthcare, technology, manufacturing, is we can't overstate that enough. The skills escalator, which you can see quite crudely depicted there, the skills escalator model is a framework that allows and includes professionals to access training. It could be vocational, it could be undergraduate, all the way up to master's and PhD level. And it's these bite-sized courses. You can embark the escalator as and when to get the relevant training in short, credit awarding micro-credentials, and then apply that knowledge to your business. Should you wish to then continue accumulating these credits, they can then build up qualifications towards the end. This flexibility enables individuals to gain the relevant skills immediately, quickly, without the time commitment of a 3-year bachelor's or a 4-year master's or a doctorate. So this way it's a short, sweet engagement with the education. Crucially, for this framework or this model to work, it's a collaboration with colleges, with fellow universities in the area, so that collectively we can rely and lean on each other's strengths so that the participants and the local industry can gain the most and engaging content, relevant content for their employees. So in brief, Switch on Skills, as the remit of the project is to deliver courses, these short courses, CPD, micro-credentials in the area of decarbonization, environmental mitigation. So we'll equip the participants with the relevant knowledge for their industrial sector, in this case the steel sector, with mitigation techniques, best practices to help them deliver on their projects, on their tasks. Participants will be able to access short CPD, micro-credentials, and build this into a qualification as in time allows. As mentioned before, project collaborates with schools through outreach and colleges, where some of the content that we've developed from our doctorate programs, from our undergraduate programs, feed into the Escalator all the way down to foundation and outreach level, so that at each step they've got the latest information, they've got the latest technology and up-to-date information. So through outreach and through engagement with colleges, we're hoping to raise awareness of the climate issues, environmental concerns, and highlight some of the best practices, as well as establishing a pipeline for future workforce that's in short supply at present. So the approach will elevate the experience that the participants will engage, with the content from PhD research, from engagement with industrial partners, is fed back into the course content. So the participants also gain as much relevant information as possible, leading to a well-informed workforce, resulting in economic benefits and higher yield. I'll hand you over to Dai.
Thank you,
See you again.
Tag team. Right, thank you very much. So I'm Warren. I've worked with Khalil for many years on this. So we started off with the triangle. We've evolved to an escalator, but the principle's the same about trying to open up access to skills. So where I sit at the moment is something called Coated M2A, and that represents the highest skills level around postgraduate research. So we've built this on a heritage of 32 years of doctoral training. Historically, we were one of the first centres for the Engineering Doctorate Award with British Steel, as it was back then. And that relationship has continued to today, where we continue to offer Engineering Doctorate Awards. The big difference is that we've branched out from a purely steel industry focused through to the steel supply chain and now into wider materials and manufacturing industry. But all of this is built on a long-standing relationship with industrial partners. So the big thing that we're bringing to this is research degrees, but they're done in collaboration with industrial partners. So all of the awards all the projects we set out with have an industrial partner tied into them. So it's an opportunity to work with industry, gain that level of experience, whilst working on something which is academically challenging as well at the same time. The other thing which we do differently, so yes, there are lots of PhDs in the room, there's lots of PhDs available throughout the country. But what the centres actually do is bring together a cohort of people, so around 10 individuals, up to our biggest was around 40, with some of the European funding that was available. And it's a really big opportunity for us to bring people who are like-minded together, who can share their journey and their experience with them. So we've done that. The last two projects has been the Materials and Manufacturing Academy and the Coated brand of CDTs, which is Centre for Doctoral Training, and they're focused in, can you guess, coatings. So together we came up with a catchy name, Coated M2A, and there's a quick infographic on there that just summarises some of the outputs around that. That was largely funded through European and UK Research Council funding. Obviously the European money's gone, but we continue, so the Coated brand is still continuing. That's our current CDT, which we're running at the moment. So why this approach? So the whole point of this cohort thing is that we're fostering some level of innovation. We've been running for 32 years, get my maths there, 32 years. And it's, you know, so there's a proven model there. So it's about bringing these individuals together, but it's not just having a group of people doing research, it's people doing research and doing training at the same time as well. So we offer technical training at the start of the scheme, and we follow that up with professional training later on. So that's taught modules, it's all done in the short and fat delivery method. So 3 days of teaching followed by an exam shortly afterwards. Sounds horrendous at the start, it gets a little bit better. There's a few individuals in the room who've gone through that journey. I'm looking for their response now. It's like, yay. But it also brings brings the individuals together as well. So there's a big benefit around bringing this group, and it's almost like a big bonding mechanism, that the fact you've got to go through these training modules, which are really intensive at the start. Moving into the professional side, we're recognising now what we're actually doing. Originally, we do technical first year, light touch second year, light touch third year, professional skills in the final year. We're seeing a lot of the professional skills being brought forward, so things that we consider to put out into the final year. We've got Six Sigma, we've started delivering green and yellow belts. We've been doing Prince 2, and it's realising actually, you know, there's overlap between what we're trying to deliver on that front from a skill which is perceived to be an employability skill, is actually beneficial towards delivering the research projects as well. So it's trying to find that combination of what's needed for your research, what's needed outside life, and then there's that overlap across the two. The other aspects of it then is not just about the physical sitting in a course and getting educated that way. It's also about some of the mechanisms at which you bring into reporting. So everybody fills in a quarterly report, brings joy. But quarterly theme presentations again. And it's one of those things that nobody seems to enjoy at the start, but it's probably the one thing that everybody seems to come back to me after they've graduated and said, do you know what, I'm really glad you made me do 4 presentations a year, because it really helps to build your confidence standing up in front of these sort of situations. So being able to develop the individuals, both professionally and technically, is what we're really seeing the benefit of bringing people together. Tie into that some advanced facilities at the university. We partner with lots of other universities as well, so it's not just about what we've got here in Swansea, but it's also about what's available at some of the partnering institutions as well. So, but the final point there is peer-to-peer collaboration. So yes, there's an element of the fun slides there. So we've obviously got the guys having one of the social aspects and building the bonds there. But it's also sharing the research journey as well, sharing some of that knowledge. And you put a group of people together who aren't necessarily researching all metallurgy or all looking at chemistry of coatings. It's the fact you've got these people together who mingle and they mix and they discuss, and you start to see the overlaps in different techniques and sharing the knowledge and the benefits between the different aspects of the research, how one can benefit another. What do we get out of it? I'm running out of time, I'm sure. So product and process development is all incremental. Product development is the bigger steps, but there's also novel techniques that are coming out of the research, and we're seeing patentable technology as well. Journals and conferences and standard academic outputs come out of that as well. So it's being able to get the word out for the individual researchers to network and develop their skills, and it's also building the reputation of your sponsoring company and the university as part of that. What do we do? We're in a steel conference, so these are all our steely ones. We do a lot of research projects outside of this as well. But if I can get the pointer to work. Right, so everything, starting from the best tin plate materials we can produce. So looking at not only at the substrate, we've looked at the novel chrome coatings and the influence of different processing conditions on those through to the lacquers that go on the surface. A big change. Anyone linked in with the packaging industry, it's been exciting times for the last 10 years or so, and still exciting. Run-out table cooling cycles is an example of a project going on at the moment. Liam was in here somewhere. I think he's gone now, is he? Oxides evaluation on the surface. We've got hot dip simulator for galvanizing projects, through to thermochemical heat storage, active buildings with photovoltaics. This is a hydrogen permeation cell. So I know hydrogen was spoken about earlier. That's one of the electrochemical cells. So we're doing some research in that. Anti-corrosion coatings, novel resins. So these are sustainable resins, option 1 and option 2. I know which one I prefer. Through to refractory materials, through product properties for rebar, and the last one at the bottom is an in-trap study, which is on the, again, heard it off on there. So lots of exciting stuff. What do we get? Outputs, lots of clever graduates. I'm not going. Yeah, lots of clever graduates, but I made this one at the end. So, but it's also about the ability to go into work and drive the change. What does that get you? Into some of these roles, which I shan't go through because Becky's going to kill me. But I contributed with the blue arrows to this one, so Cal did the fancy graphics. But ultimately, what we're able to show, and what the punchline is, so don't stop me now, is that it's not just about giving people the doctorates, is also about opening up the accessibility. So this ties in with what Cal was saying, is that we're seeing people now, we're seeing the benefit. We started doing this in 2011, engaging at the work-based learning side of it. We're seeing people coming up our escalator, coming out with the doctorates, and then they're going out into employability. People in employability are coming in and upskilling at these different levels. And the important thing about that is when they're going back into employment, they're getting higher paid jobs, more responsibility, and that's what it's about. So.